Thank you very much for that introduction. We are going to present today about the challenges facing sustainability in UK addiction treatment. I'm Kenton, this is Eytan Alexander. Eytan is in recovery and I'm kind of in denial, so that's kind of the starting point of this presentation. As you kind of know, in the addict's head there's a lot of chaos, and when you harness that chaos, it can be a very powerful force. It's like the kind of wind, you know, it can create a lot of destruction, but when harnessed, it can be a very powerful force. And this gentleman here is that in its essence. You know, what he's done with iCAAD has been absolutely tremendous. I think we're going to talk about this as an industry. You know, as an investor coming to an auditorium and talking about our business and how to make it profitable and sustainable without cutting corners, and then kind of sharing that with our competitors, it's like people question that. But for me, and I think for Eytan, it's about obviously collectively delivering excellent service and helping each other, create solutions for people with addictions. And so to compete with each other in a healthy environment makes us all better. And, when I play tennis, if I play with someone better than me, I improve. So for us to all share our best practices, I think makes us all collectively better. So let's do this. These are the things we're going to be talking about today. Why I invested, size of the problem, obviously a lot of you know, state of the industry, why there's so little change, and the introduction that Eytan will touch on, all the nitty-gritty of the business details. He'll go into the details. So why did I invest? Basically, in the city, going to work on 642 from Hadleywood to Moorgate, every morning, depressed, working, tirelessly as a banker, kind of disillusioned with life. Everyone in the carriage kind of the same, sallow-faced. I saw this guy sitting away at his laptop, slightly different, banging away on his laptop early in the morning when everyone else is kind of half zombied. He had a kind of glint in his eye. Over time, we got talking. And he kind of told me about, his idea. Having been an investor at Addiction Helper, he kind of had an understanding of what was missing in addiction treatment centres. What people were looking for. How to provide those services at a more kind of attractive price point. So, over time, we talked more. We went off. We did a lot more research. We did, extensive business planning, excuse me. And December 13, we basically both quit our jobs in the city after 20 odd years. And by May 14, our first facility was open and iCAAD was born. That was the first of 6, soon to be 7 facilities. As you can see, obviously, just to give a backdrop of the size of this problem, in the US, they spent over $1 trillion in the last 20 years trying to combat drugs into the US, and it's failed. All that money up in smoke. There's 25 million Americans with substance problems needing treatment. It just doesn't seem to be working in terms of combating this problem. In the UK, we have also, a very large problem in terms of the impact on our economy. Alcohol, 21 billion in terms of lost productivity, crime, and obviously the drain on the NHS. And with drugs, 15.4 billion again. This is a significant sum of money being drained out of our economy. We have to address this problem. We have to address the cost to our economy. We have to address the cost to our communities, to our families, and to human lives. Let's look at the state of the industry. We have an underfunded NHS. It's commonly reported the NHS is in crisis. John F. Kennedy once said that the Chinese word for crisis is made up of two characteristics: danger and opportunity. It's poignant. I actually think it's factually incorrect, and I think a lot of motivational speakers use this, and I don't think it's right, but if it's all right for JFK, it's all right for me. Although don't shoot me. The NHS is under a lot of strain. It's underfunded, it has legacy infrastructure, and its red tape is just a drain on its efficiency. It just can't operate effectively. I'll tell you a little story anecdotally about the experience I've had. Eytan laughs a lot because I've done my back end, and I've had a lot of problems the last couple of months. I had to have some scans, I had to get the copies of the scans. I had to kind of call the NHS to get a patient code thing. It took me 50 minutes on the phone. I had to go to the Royal Free, had to queue up at the diagnostics department to get a form, had to fill in the form, take the form to the cashier in another part of the hospital, pay, get it stamped, take the form back to diagnostics, submit the form, queue up, wait 2 weeks for the things to be posted back to me. If I can't do something more effective with that than that process, then maybe I should be shot. I think the NHS, people do tremendous work. It's highly commendable, everything that they do, but there's no incentive to succeed. There's no incentive for people within that thing to improve. We have to change that. We look at the private market. The private market, it's been stuck in a rut. It hasn't kind of motivated itself to develop, hasn't had incentive, hasn't had investment. It kind of needs to progress, it needs to transform, it needs to innovate. Otherwise the problem doesn't go away. So how do we find a sustainable solution? To be sustainable, and obviously the topic of this presentation is about sustainability. To be sustainable, we have to transform. Now, we look at these slides, it's a bit of a paradox, they kind of contradict each other. Sustainability to maintain at a certain rate, transformation to change. Just doesn't sit right. But for this industry to be sustainable, it has to change. It has to adapt. Charles Darwin, obviously the world's leading evolutionist. There's a misconception in the world, it's the strongest, it's the fastest. It's not, it's the most adaptable to change. People think it's about strength, it's about transforming, finding your way in a new marketplace. And it's as true today as it was then, and it's as true today in business as it was. So we have to draw, we have to draw comparisons from other industries. Eytan and I came from banking. We both spent 20 years basically in a banking industry, which at the beginning was shrouded in secrecy. You had an open outcry marketplace where people didn't really know what the prices were. It was an old boys club, nudge, nudge, wink, wink kind of thing. It kind of then revolutionised itself with the trading floors. We went to the computerised system. Things became more transparent. There was a lot more efficiency. There was a lot more openness around price. People then, expanded balance sheets, and the whole industry exploded. And ultimately, the ones that didn't survive. I used to work there. It's kind of painful looking at it, but Lehman Brothers, the industry kind of. I think that's you on the left, actually.
I didn't work there, though.
No, I didn't work there. So, the people that survived in the banking industry had to reinvent themselves. They had to go through significant kind of change. They had to really, really compete against each other, but with massively heightened regulations, with massively adjusted risk controls, reduction in headcount. The transformation was huge. But the ones that survived, the ones that made those adjustments, rebuilt themselves and continued to thrive. So, we have to look at other industries, and we have to learn from this information, the transformational skills that we can bring to this industry to take this industry out of the kind of darkness and the secrecy and the shame that we kind of all operate in. We've got to get this thing out into the open. We've got to transform and change. I mean, look at these other companies. So, 10, 20 years ago, none of these existed. We all were happily doing things the way that we'd always done them. These companies came along and they became efficient, they became cheaper, they became transparent, they changed the way that we did things. British Airways used to have a monopoly on everything and travelling around Europe. EasyJet came along, changed the model, made it online booking, changed the seating pricing. Amazon, there were stores all up and down the high street. Now there's one click, bang, next day you get it delivered. All these companies are changing the way that we do things, and we have to adapt and change to progress. And that's something this industry, I think, has been slow to do. For one reason or another, it's kind of been stuck in the past. I mean, the internet has changed everything that we do. It's no longer, I think, acceptable or good practice in this industry to, look for a GP referral or, get an advert in the yellow pages or, wait for a local authority to give you a lead. The internet's changed the game. You either go with it or you perish. It's that simple. It's a fact of life. You can't kind of operate outside of this kind of utopian vacuum that this industry wants to do things out of the goodness of its heart. It has to adapt to the marketplace. That's the law of the land. So why is there such little change? Why is there such stigma and secrecy and shame associated with addiction? Many of you in this room will have countless stories of loved ones, people you know, that have gone deeper into despair because of the shame or the embarrassment or the guilt of their addiction, and it's terrible. It's people don't want to be judged, and they're scared of bringing themselves out into the open. And secrets and lies cost lives. It's a fact. This has to change. As a society, there needs to be a 180-degree sea change to bring this disease out into the open. We don't want to have to keep scurrying around in the shadows. We need to get the clarity and transparency of this disease out into the open. People need to know where to go to get help with no fear of judgment, no prejudice. As an industry, we need to increase this visibility and accessibility. So this slide fascinates me. Look at the stigma attached to capitalism in addiction, in behavioural health. Whilst I commend and applaud all the noble and compassionate work people do in this industry, we have to attract the best brains to change and adapt and progress. This makes no sense. Average pay of a top charity CEO, 250 grand. Average pay of a FTSE 100 CEO, £5.5 million. It's 20-something times different. For one reason or another, we do not accept that behavioural health or any well-being industries are allowed to benefit commercially from being in this arena. It's okay to make money, millions and millions of pounds, as long as you're not saving lives. Where's the sense in that? We have to change this perception. We have to change the way that people think. It makes no sense to me. Look at this poll. 1,000 people saying only 5% felt a charity with an income over 100 million should pay its CEO over 150 grand. It doesn't make any sense. And I think people are just lazy in terms of their thinking. They don't challenge themselves when they're kind of thinking about this disease. And it is a disease. If you ask the same people, okay, let's think about this seriously. Give yourself a bit of time before you just think about a knee-jerk reaction. Would you rather pay a computer program, some guy making a video game about shooting people in the head, the same amount of money or more money than someone that saves people's lives, that literally saves families from the destruction of drugs and alcohol or anything? People would probably change their answer. I think people need to think more. We need to help change that thinking collectively, because collectively we need to make a difference.
I'm kind of curious to know if those same people would have said that the CEO of the FTSE 100 company should also be paid a bit less.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think generally that's
Depending on the company.
Yeah, I think generally people think FTSE CEOs are overpaid, but I think the point is, for some reason society doesn't accept people getting paid, high pay in kind of the well-being sectors, and it doesn't. If you're saving lives, yes, it's great to do it out of the goodness of your heart, but surely, someone making a drug company, a big pharmaceutical company, they save lives. CEO earns $10 million a year. What's the difference? It's sociological taboos. It's stigmas. It's, oh no, you work as a counsellor. Well, you should just do that out of the love, the goodness of your heart. Well, that's great. But look where we are. That's been our solution today, and there's more addicts and alcoholics than there's ever been. Society's kind of broken, and we need to try and think of smarter, more creative ways to fix it, and that has to come, whether we like it or not, through attracting the best brains out of other industries to try and combat this problem, because it's a problem that isn't going away, and capitalism will help solve the problem, and we have to get over this taboo that it's terrible to make money out of addiction. Well, that's we're in a society that's got a problem. Let's get our best brains to try and solve it. You know what? If we have to pay for that, I'm happy to make that trade. Addiction is a disease. There's so much talk about other charities and stuff. Where's the race for life for alcoholics? What's all that about? Why do people happily support charities for British Heart Foundation, Macmillan, charities for cancer research? These are all great charities, and they do fantastic work. And I'm not knocking them, but why is it there's no addiction charity fund runs? Why are we hidden away in the shadows? Why aren't we visible and transparent and out there, pounding the table? People wear their support for these charities with a badge of honour. There's the positive connotation around supporting these other charities. We're a disease as much as these guys are. There's as much shame in being an alcoholic as there is in having a heart attack. I've never met one person who, on picking up their first drink, said, I hope in 10 years' time my life's ruined, my family have all disowned me, and I've lost everything. It's like no smokers ever picks up a cigarette and said, I hope I get lung cancer. No person who stuffs McDonald's in their face says, I hope I get a heart attack. It's all the same. It's all the same. We have to change this prejudice. We have to bring this disease out into the open and help. We should be celebrating raising money for addiction as much as people running for loved ones that they've had for the race for life. It's all the same. So how do we do this? Okay, so as we alluded to earlier, I spent some time after I left finance studying this philosophy called Danto, which is kind of a mantra for kind of living and kind of mental well-being, and I found it very kind of intellectually therapeutic. And one of the mantras was the key of living a successful life was about the 3 C's: consistency, always kind of having like a vision, staying true on course to your kind of beliefs, and never kind of never straying from your kind of core values. Concentration, staying focused on those values, never kind of letting your mind panic and worry about the dead past. Oh God, what's going to happen about the unborn future? Stay firmly in the now. That's how you're going to just free your mind's capacity, being able to really focus on your goals. And then cooperation. No man is an island. We have to collaborate to succeed. We have to work together to beat this. Both within our own organisations, we have to, it's no good I'm being a boss and I'm going to succeed and we all have to rise together. Everyone needs to have the same common goals and want to win collectively. We have to collaborate within our organisations and we have to collaborate within the industry. We can only win if we do this together. So before I hand over to Eytan, he's going to kind of give you the nitty-gritty of how he's built iCAAD. From that conversation on the train, a few years ago, how he's now, kind of building this business, really starting to make a difference in this arena. I just want to summarise, where we are. The problem's growing. We need to put some more investment. We need to fund this. We need to be creative. We need to kind of really think about changing and adapting. We have to destroy this stigma. It's got to change. We have to start bringing this thing out of the shadows. We've got to work together to destroy these taboos. It's about the visibility of this illness. It's about getting people the accessibility of treatment. It's about working together to bring it transparent, so people know where to go. We have to embrace compassionate capitalism. Compassion is a good thing. Capitalism is a good thing. Compassionate capitalism is a great thing. And all around this, we have to provide high quality care. The client has to come first. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Eytan. I hope you enjoyed the little preamble. He's going to explain now the nitty-gritty.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, I'm Eytan. I'm the CEO and founder of UK Addiction Treatment Centres. I came from the city, and it was, for 20 years, I started working in a company called GFI. And when I first started, there was 30 people, and it was all very exciting and a bit Wild West and amazing. That company grew to 4,500 people. We actually all went over to America, rang the bell at the New York Stock Exchange, and it was an amazing experience. But that growth process in a company that was, very innovative, had a very family culture. There was always accessibility to go and develop within the organisation, and that was a key thing. And that process of growth, which I did for another company, I found that we were in the business of business. But going into recovery, the last 5 years of my journey in the city kind of lost its luster. I became more productive, funnily enough, it's an odd thing. And but I just didn't want to do it. I lost that. And much to my wife's and probably my parents and friends thinking I was completely mad leaving that sector, because the pay was great, if I'm honest. But I just hated it, and I wanted to go and do something else. And I got involved with addiction helper in early doors and in the city, and I started having a look at the problem and how big it was. And it was interesting, the concept from the referral side, getting to see how that all worked. And it was good information. It really was good information. So basically, we decided that I had to go and put this business plan together. I wanted to basically offer, affordable treatment, to the masses. It kind of seemed to me that it was, you could offer great care without compromising anything at a lower price. And that's what people were looking for. So essentially, looking at what we were trying to do, looking at the current services and the geographical data, looking at price point, having a robust business plan, and putting these numbers together from that data, but having essentially the best therapeutic practice. I mean, I looked at it was a bit like a hotel. I have a choice today, so I can either go to the Holiday Inn, and it's very basic and it's cheap. I can pay £50 for that. Or I can choose to go and stay at the Dorchester, pay £1,000 and go and have scrambled eggs with caviar on top. Ultimately, they both offer the same thing. There is a bed, which is clean, that I can sleep in. It's a choice I make to what I'm actually looking for as a client. And really it's like applying that to this process. I mean, looking at Addiction Helper, we had all this data, what clients were looking for. Some of them wanted gyms, some of them wanted their own rooms, TVs, ensuite bathrooms, an on-site chef, great care. But ultimately, it didn't really matter about all those other things. They were coming in for treatment. And that's the same thing from the hotels. You're looking for a bed, someone comes in to treat, they're looking for great care, they want to get well, they're hopefully looking to get them to engage. And following that process, you can have different price points. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, as long as you don't compromise on that care. I mean, it's about getting the client over the line. If you offer, some people, like for myself, there was no way I was going to go and share a room with somebody. I just wasn't. I want my privacy. All these things help me get into treatment, and that's part of the problem. You have this whole stigma around, I'm going to go into a padded cell. Well, that's not the case, but that's kind of like the perception, of what I found when talking to other people. So from that data, we identified. We've got 6 centres. So if you want ensuite bathrooms and a gym and an on-site chef and loads of care, okay, we can do that in all the centres. Starting at £5,000 all the way up to £10,000 for 28 days. It's achievable. It really is. But what we looked at was at those price points, we would be able to go and fill our beds. No problem. And it's about that sustainability, about filling the beds. So basically what we're looking to achieve, so it has to be safe and secure, affordable, first-class facilities, and exceptional care and treatment. That's what you would expect wherever you go. And as providers, the client should always be safe in our hands, and as long as that happens, there should be no problem. So we've looked at Deloitte in great detail. They look at the healthcare sector in a big and spectacular way. And for 2017, they looked at 5 things that were compulsory. So the cost, the care of delivery, operations, innovation, and regulatory compliance. And we'll look at these in more details. I mean, how do they apply to us? The costs. What are our essential business burn rates? How much am I spending to go and to deliver what I want to go and deliver? How do I go and attract clients? The care delivery, embracing traditional and virtual tools, it's evolving. The operations, setting up clearly defined reporting lines within the organisation to help it run smoothly. The innovation, looking at technology to streamline and enhance data extrapolation. I need that data to see what I'm actually doing. It's simple stuff. But the regulatory compliance, gives us an opportunity to improve, and it's not a threat. So in the city, we had our biggest problem was compliance. With all the changing regulations and the way they would look at things and new laws coming out, our compliance departments grew 4 times faster than anything else. That was our biggest cost. But we got through it. So, here's basically a list of costs. Our biggest cost is marketing. I can have the greatest treatment centre in the world, have a fabulous facility, the most amazing therapists, but the truth is, if I don't get clients through the door, I'm dead in the water. It doesn't matter. So, and that's a struggle for a lot of providers. So, we have one or two ways forward. I can either go and do my own marketing. So the costs in that are that I have to go and increase my admissions team, because they're going to be taking all sorts of calls from various people who some have money, some don't, and you've got to go and place those people who don't have money to signpost them to the correct services. It doesn't really matter whether they haven't got money. You need to help them. They're looking for help. But I then need to go and employ my own marketing person for the internet. Pretty much 85% of treatment comes through the internet. I mean, that's a fact. Long gone are the days of the yellow pages and referral pathways using doctors. You need to be visible. If you looked from the previous slide from Matt talking about Amazon, it's amazing. I can be a tiny little shop on the corner competing now against the big boys. I can go and sell the same pen for 10p cheaper. You're gonna buy my pen. It's about having that visibility and that transparency to go and pick up on that on those acquisitions. But I have to look at my cost per acquisition. I can, on the other side, if I don't want to go and spend all that money on my own marketing team and I can go and outsource it. When I first started Sanctuary Lodge, our first facility, it was about how I was worried. How am I going to get patients in? And I spoke to all the referrers. I had very little marketing, but because I didn't have to go and focus on that side, I could do it on a cost per acquisition. I knew what my cost was, so I priced it accordingly. Even at the prices that we did, it was easy. I had clients coming in. I had a stationary cost, whether I had beds filled or not. I needed to go and cover those costs, and being competitive in that marketplace. We felt that it was we identified a price point where it would be attractive to people. But how do I get that out there? I need to be visible. I need to be out there in the internet space. It's paramount. It's paramount. So looking at me doing it on a cost per acquisition basis, I can go and pay the referrers. It costs the clients the same amount of money as coming through me as going through the referrer. I need to factor that into my costs. And looking at my cost per acquisition, having a blended model between the two things, it works better. I know I can speak from Addiction Help, and 97% of the people who come through the referral agencies are unable to fund treatment. They're looking for free services. But to try and access those free services, they need to be pointed in the right direction because people in crisis, they need help. They're like me. So I don't have to go through all those 97 out of 100 calls that the referrals will go and deal with. I get those 3% if they're appropriate for me and for other providers, and I pay for that on a cost per acquisition basis. It keeps the rehabs full, which enables me to go and invest more money into the business, so my costs, I can cover my costs and grow within my organisation. Centralising other things, so admissions, having that admissions team that they define who is appropriate for me. It's imperative. It's pointless having people come in and out and they just walk out the door. They need to, the same way as the local services, the statutory services will prep clients to say, okay, this is what to expect. That's what they need to go and do, because the clients that are coming through the internet, we don't know how motivated they are. But that's most of the people that come through our doors, through the net. And it's quite simple. Me being able to be visible on the internet in every space, and being able to take the calls, because even if I am visible, if I don't have the people in admissions to be able to take the calls, why am I spending my money? Why am I paying anyone else? It's key that I'm able to pick up the phone and speak to that person. Otherwise, it's just wasted money. It's money down the toilet. So, essentially, these points, assessing your costs of liver care. I mean, these things are standard. Profitability versus best practice. You need to define the optimum staffing levels. The rising staffing costs versus the number of patients. It needs to be that balance. And there is a cost to that across the board. People forget about staff training, what needs to go and happen. There is an inherent cost around that. And so, in regards to admissions, we don't believe in a commission basis for our admissions team, because we don't know. Maybe they might be jamming people into the centre that aren't appropriate for ourselves. So what we look at is, as a business, once they've completed, what is the profitability for the company, and then we go and reward them accordingly. So they know that if they're putting in people and this guy who's in our admissions team has a history of his clients walking out the door, well, someone's not assessing and admitting them correctly. So, and more importantly, the efficiency of data management, we can actually lower our costs by using various tools online to keep that, for us to have a look at that data, to go and move forward in the right way. The care delivery. We need to be clear about what we can and cannot treat. I mean, it's great that you're having all this client flow, but it's pointless if you're ripping these people off. It's pointless. So you need to ensure that the facility is the optimal destination for your clients. If they're not, you can't take them. If you're looking to expand, you need to have that space in your facility. We found at Sanctuary Lodge, there was, we're a 24-bed facility. We wanted to run some aftercare. How are we going to go and do that? So we needed more space on site to go and do extended care, taking a house just down the road, but they need to be on site. We just ran out of space. If you're splitting up, you want an optimal amount of groups. So we look at 12 patients, 12 clients in a group. It's important. You might have some bigger groups depending on what gender sets or various diagnoses to go and look at what's going on to share equally. But ultimately it's about having the space to go and to deliver that care. A lot of places that we don't work with anymore, all the counsellors need to be qualified. It's all very well and good me being in recovery. I'm not a counsellor. I can go and talk about the 12 steps and have that identification. That's not going to help anyone. Recovery is after you leave treatment. All the counsellors have to have the correct experience to go and deliver that care. If you're looking to expand on delivery care, you can employ specialists. I mean, it's as various modalities. But in reality, as long as you don't cut back on that care, you're going to be fine. The emergency scenarios that happen because we deal with addiction. You don't know what's about to happen with somebody. They come in, they start detoxing, they get on well, or maybe some mental health issues will arise. You need to have a plan in place to go and move them onto there. I mean, how does that... And once you have these plans in place, you need to demonstrate that on a regular basis, because it does happen. In regards to the operations, looking at that tonight, when I first started at Sanctuary Lodge, I was the registered manager. I mean, David Finney will vouch for it. He told me I was mad, and he was right. I became the registered manager. I did all the admissions. I was the support staff. I cleaned the toilets. I mean, bless my wife. I mean, I lived up there, or we lived up there for 6 months, because the service was progressing, but we needed to, as you grow, you need to fill in those gaps. So I needed to go and employ people who were better than me, who were stronger than me, that I could work with. It's about the certain caliber of people that were dynamic enough to work in that culture. That the same thing at GFI. It was a family orientation. I felt supported. I felt that I could bring my ideas to the table to improve the company. We have an outstanding group of individuals here in this room who I work with, who are far better than me, who are far more innovative. But it's about putting it out into that business plan to make it all work and run smoothly. We look at the management teams. There's no silos. Everyone is communicating. If you don't have that communication, it's not going to work. For that smooth running. And you need to employ more staff than you think to make that smooth running. And in the organisation, because you've got these people working in different areas, sharing that experience in different centres helps things move forward in a more sustainable way. We can keep improving on the operations. Clearly, all the people who work within, when I worked at GFI, my career advancements were, I progressed. I want that for this organisation. As we grow, it pyramids. And these people who are with us now, they grow, but people need to be rewarded. And training staff and robust technology, efficiency improvements, all of this stuff is just for the smooth and safe running of the facilities. Looking from going to America, we've seen various technology improvements. The biggest thing for us was the EMRs, electronic medical records. We've moved forward now. We've implemented a company called Keeper, who's the largest provider of cloud-based recording client files for the US. It's a very bespoke system that we can go and standardise across the board to go and to keep us not only to reduce man hours, but the transparency within all the staff. We live in the UK. Everything's pretty much on paper, except for the very large organisations. It takes time. It actually costs us more money not to do this kind of stuff. Non-invasive drug testing. We're piloting something which, instead of having, it's kind of like it's something we need to go and do, to go and assess if people, it wouldn't be the first addict that goes into treatment that goes over the fence and comes out, has a drink. People who maybe peeing in a cup, essentially, it's not, what's the word? I think dignified, exactly, thank you. But, with this, it's just a fingerprint. You put it in the machine, it's nice and simple. Virtual aftercare. We have a very strong aftercare team that people come up back to the facilities that continue to want to go, well, we offer this service. We'd like to offer it to more, so we're about to pilot an online aftercare solution. It's an outcome studies. It's about defining outcomes to see what we're actually delivering is working. Defining that is a very different thing, and we'll talk about collaboration later, but it's within the industry, working out what we're actually doing and seeing if it is working can be done. And again, in America, they have platforms that they utilize to go and see if what they do is good, and that's key. This is the biggest thing. So the changes, so regulatory, it's imperative for us to keep trading. Unless we're able to adapt to what the governing body wants, they'll just close us down. And that's a problem. So with CQC, we need to each provider, we need to strive to be the industry gold standard. There's always different things. So I'm speaking to various people at the conference about why did I have to go and bring in 24/7 nursing? Why do I need to go and do blood tests? Why do I need to? It seems that there's this disparity across the board. I think because each service has its own policies and procedures that they go and follow, we have to look at that on an individual basis and keep going. Again, the biggest thing in the city was regulatory compliance. So we need a dedicated compliance team. So what they go and do is they go around to each service, we go and get inspected by the CQC, look at what's going on, they find that it's their job to find fault, and to take that on board and improve on it. And eventually you come up with a scenario where your service is compliant with CQC. We've had 6 CQC inspections. Our last inspection in Runcorn, our biggest service, there was not one fault. They were completely happy. And that's through the transference of looking at what's been going on for us. In the beginning, where at Sanctuary Lodge, we got slammed. Absolutely slammed. They didn't stop us trading, but we had to go and address those issues. And looking at that going forward, it helps us develop to offer best care. And so staff training and self-auditing, that process across the board only keeps you safe. In regards to partnership with people, so industry collaboration, we like working with the charities. Last year, we worked with the Amy Winehouse Foundation, we worked with Strides, we've done various scholarships for friends, but ultimately we need to be working with these people, because it's not all about the money. If we can go and help people and factor that into our costs to go and make these things work, 2016 we spent £250,000 on scholarship beds. We want to increase that number. It's about helping the addict, and being able to do that's imperative. Addiction helper. When we have people that come in through our own marketing, the problem is that if we cannot help them, if they are not appropriate for us, what we need to go and do is refer them on somewhere else. The admissions team, they're swamped. They're always moaning. Michael, I don't know where Michael is, but there he is. Always moaning. All right? But what needs to happen is that it needs to go somewhere else where they do have time, where they do special, where they do know all the providers, because the client needs choice. That's the important thing. The client needs to make the decision. They shouldn't be penalised by my marketing or referral fees or any pathway. It needs to be one price for the client. So referring it over to addiction or other referrers, they're able to go and pass them on to the appropriate services. It's a simple process. We had an incident the other day where someone came in late at night. The doctor admitted them, but they weren't appropriate for our service. We spoke to Addiction Helper, it was their client. They went off to the Priory. It was a bit of a nightmare, but they went to an appropriate service with mental health facilities. It works. But more importantly, pooling and leveraging on each other's centres of excellence. The providers here all do amazing work. It's about having that collaboration and utilising each other's facilities. Generally speaking, we would hand that through a referrer, because that's their job. We're outsourcing our marketing. Well, okay, if we can go and give something back and that client gets help and they know what you're doing, fantastic. It's another bed filled to keep your service alive, because a lot of these services out there, they're struggling. The NHS, the NHS sector, we've got some facilities that are on the statutory framework. Unfortunately, the cost of what's going on over there, it wouldn't work. So what do we have to go and subsidise the statutory clients with the private pay clients, so we can continue improving the services. It's not rocket science. You just need to keep at some stage, it's not going to be affordable. It's not going to be viable for providers to go and work with the NHS. So in conclusion, whatever happens, the client care has to come first. Whatever happens, the client needs choice. Needs to innovate and embrace the change. There's loads of change going on. The collaboration with other referrers, with other providers, with charities, it needs to happen. CQC requirements, we need to aim to exceed that. But the bottom line, across any provider, we cannot trade that client's care by cutting corners for profitability. It just doesn't work. And that's pretty much our view on the market space. Thank you very much for listening.